All right, welcome to another edition of Talkin Dodgers, your ultimate Dodger fan podcast. I'm going to be riding solo today. Aaron and Max are off. Aaron's actually driving back right now from spring training. Also, he went to Vegas for a little bit with his girl, so hopefully Max and Aaron will be back with me on the next episode. Okay, so let's go over the topics. Today's topics are, we're talking about, we're going to recap the last 4 games of spring training. We're going to do it really fast. Should we be worried about Will Smith? We're going to talk about a little bit about Vargas as well. Is there still hope for him? Knack and Paez got optioned. And we're going to talk about who's in, who's out, what the lineup is looking like so far, and who still has a shot to hopefully make the club. Before we jump into this, I want to, remind you guys, if you like what you're hearing, if you enjoy the content, please click the like and subscribe buttons, click the follow buttons, the thumbs up buttons. Also, don't forget to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/rotyourbrainmedia. Your contributions help us create content, keep the lights on. So, all right, let's jump into it. So we're going to talk about, really fast, the last 4 games of spring training. And you know what? I mean, there's a lot that was shown from the players as far as like starting pitching. And obviously we got to see some of the offense kind of click for some players. But they played 4 games. They won all 4 games. Let's talk about the first game. So on Friday, March 1st, Dodgers over the Guardians, 6-4. All right. Some notable stats on that game. Let's talk about the key players. We're not going to go too much into the players that aren't going to be on the team or don't have a shot. But right now, let's go with position players. Betts went 0 for 3. Ohtani 1 for 1 with 2 walks and an RBI. Freddie Freeman 0 for 2. Kike, first game back with the Dodgers, 1 for 2 with a double. Vargas 0 for 2 with 2 Ks. And Owings, that would be Aaron's boy, he went 2 for 2. What can be said about that game? Well, we got to actually see Kike back with the Dodgers, Ohtani and Betts and Freeman. We got to see that trio again. The protection still not, it feels like you want to see Betts, obviously get on base all the time, giving Ohtani a shot to actually hit him in, kind of like, with Betts and Freeman last season. But it's just, it's going to happen. It's spring training. It's a very small sample size. It's going to happen. It's still that game. The last game we're going to talk about, it definitely clicked for sure, but that one is just not quite there yet. And like I said, small sample size. Pitching though, Glasnow went 3 innings. He had 5 Ks and he had a walk. That's what we want. We want to have our starting pitching dominant. Once again, spring training, small sample size, but that's what we want to see is our big horses coming out there and producing, and that's exactly what Glasnow did. And then we got to see Blake Triton again. Another solid inning, another solid outing. Went 1 inning, gave up no runs. His ERA is still 0. So that's fun to see. Really fast before we jump into the next game, Aaron posted some videos, some shorts of his time over at the Guardian Dodger game. I figured, well, why not? Let's play a couple of them, and then we could talk about it really quick. I forgot to put the topic portion on his page, but you know what? We'll be okay. It'll be fine. Let's check out this first one.
Dodger Stadium. Going to the bottom of the first. Camelback Ranch, Glendale, Arizona. Dodgers in Cleveland.
Your favorite Dodger players.
Let's go, Blue.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Aaron was at the game. He wanted to show us a little bit about, the way the field looks, a little bit about the, what the atmosphere is like at spring training, because most of us don't get a chance to actually go. So that was pretty cool. Here's another video of that same game.
Tyler Glasnow, hard high, is on the bump right now. And the pitch. Fouled off to the third baseman side into the Dodger dugout. We love this game.
Right on. That's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and just show one more. Let's check out this one.
What a beautiful night in Glendale, Arizona. Dodgers, Guardians. 1-0 Dodgers. Bottom of the third. I'm sorry, bottom of the fourth. Kind of feels like you're at Dodger Stadium with the organ player. I'm a nerd for this kind of stuff. Say hi.
Hi.
Hi, B-Bag.
Hi, B-Bag.
Yeah, that's my hot lady. Yeah.
All right. And that's Darlene. She's in there as well. Really cool, super lady. She's got some podcast content she's going to be thrown out here pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that. All right. So, yeah, first game, Dodgers over the Guardians 6-4. And then we had on Saturday, we had a doubleheader. We had a split squad, 2 games going basically simultaneous. One game was aired. The other game we didn't get a chance to watch. But let's talk about the first game. Dodgers over the Cubs 8-5, game 1. So let's talk about the notable players. We had Freddie Freeman. He went 0 for 3. He had 3 Ks in that game. Will Smith still struggling, 0 for 3. Muncy 1 for 2. Teoscar Hernandez 1 for 3. And Paez 3 for 2. Homer and 3 RBIs. We're going to talk about him a little bit towards the end of this episode because I don't know what else this guy's got to do. Let's talk about the pitching really fast. So Yarbrough. So we've been talking about the 5th starter, who that's going to be, and we keep leaving Yarbrough out. But I'll tell you right now, he's making a push for that position. He's not blowing anybody away with any raw power. He's not a guy who's going to throw like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. He's a guy who's actually not even going to throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Most of his stuff is kind of like mid-80s, maybe 87, 88, kind of topping out, but it's got a lot of movement. But, just the stat on this game alone, he went 2 1/3. He gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run, 3 Ks. That 1 earned run was a home run, but it's 1 earned run. So if he would have went, if we just look at this, if he went 6 innings, gave up an earned run every other inning, that's 3 earned runs. That's, in 6 innings. That's something that you want from your starting pitcher, from a quality pitcher. And I was talking to Max earlier, and he brought up a good point that he's a veteran. We keep thinking that we want one of these young guys in there, which the list has kind of gone down a little bit from those guys. We'll talk about that also in a little bit. But Yarbrough, I think, is making a good case for being that 5th starter. We talked about him being a long man out of the bullpen, also a trading piece, but I can see maybe the Dodgers might want to hold on to him a little bit and, see what he can do. Who knows? It could be exciting or not. Let's see. Evan Phillips, he pitched also. He pitched 1 inning, struck out 1. Gratterall got in there, pitched 1 inning, just walked 1. Brazier, he was in there, rough inning. He only lasted 2/3, gave up 3 hits, 3 earned runs, and he walked 1. He's one of the guys that we think he's going to be on, the main pieces in the bullpen. Struggling a little bit, but it's spring training. We can't have everybody just ready to go from the very start. But, once again, exciting. Got to see some pieces in there, some of the young guys. But for most of it, it's a pretty good game, obviously. If the Dodgers win, it's a good game. So second game, we got the Dodgers over the Brewers, 11-3. So here we go. Gavin Lux. So we've talked about Gavin Lux being the future shortstop of the Dodgers. And he's got his issues with his fielding. But we want his we talk about the difference between him and Rojas. Rojas has the Gold Glove caliber, but doesn't have the upside on the hitting. Where Lux has the upside on hitting without that Gold Glove caliber so far. But Lux brought his bat to this game. He went 3 for 4, had an RBI, struck out once. Kike, second game with the Dodgers, had another double, 1 for 3. So both hits I think he's got so far with the Dodgers, both of them were doubles. Let's see, Outman. Big game for the young guys. 3 for 3. He had a 2-run homer. I'm sorry, he had two runners on. So he had a 3-run homer, and he also had a double. Chris Taylor, 1 for 4, had an RBI, 3 Ks. He had an RBI, and he struck out 3 times. Barnes, 1 for 2. He had an RBI, 2 walks. We'll talk about Barnes maybe in a little bit as well. Vargas, we talked about Vargas. Vargas still has the potential to be one of the future pieces for the Dodgers in the outfield. 3 for 3. He had a homer and a double, RBI and a walk. So that's pretty good for the young guys with Outman and Vargas and Lux. Between those guys, they each did 9 hits between them. So that's pretty promising. 2 home runs. 5 RBIs. That's pretty awesome. Hopefully that's future pieces of the Dodgers. We can get excited about that. So we forgot about Hurt. So Hurt, let's talk about him really quick. He showed up a couple times last season, and he's a we haven't talked about him much because I don't think this might be his first appearance. He went 2 innings, gave up 1 hit, no runs, struck out 2. I don't think he's going to make the team. They're probably still going to work with him in, down in AAA and stuff, but I think we're going to expect some big things from him coming up. So I'd be on the lookout for him. Joe Kelly pitched 1 inning, gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, struck out 1. So Joe Kelly's still kind of continuing to be, either dominant Joe Kelly or wish-washy Joe Kelly. Hopefully the other one's the one we see most often. All right, and then the last game really quick. This is a good one. I was like, the other one was a good one as well, but we got another main 3 we're talking about, 4 actually. So Betts went 3 for 3 with a double. Ohtani 3 for 3 with a triple. That ball was hit left center, and it hit just the top of the screen. There's like a fence, and then on top of that is a little screen, and it looked like it should have went out, but that screen was there. In some of those ballparks, it's kind of hard to tell if the screen counts as being on the other side of the fence. Ohtani looked confused and wasn't sure if it was a home run or not, but still was able to trot into third standing up. So he had his triple. Freddie Freeman 1 for 3. He had 2 RBIs. Will Smith got a hit, which is good. That's a good sign. We're going to talk about Will Smith after this. So Will Smith went 1 for 2 with 1 RBI. Muncy 1 for 2 with a home run, 2 RBIs. Teoscar Hernandez 1 for 2. Hayward, let's see. He was 1 for 3 with a K. Lux 0 for 3, and Paez 0 for 2 with a walk. Pitcher Gavin Stone. Gavin Stone, I think, is the front runner to be the 5th starter right now. So with Sheehan being injured, he hasn't pitched yet in the in spring training. We talked about Yarbrough for a second, but Gavin Stone, he is producing. He's pitched 3 innings, he gave up 2 hits, and he had a K. But there was 3 scoreless innings, so that's good to hear. Michael Grove, I think we could count him out as being a potential starter. Once again, he struggled. 2 1/3, gave up 2 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 2 Ks. We talked about him a little bit. I love his stuff, but he just keeps, the placement is just not there. And so it's unfortunate. I'm sure they're just going to, they'll work with him in AAA. And I don't know if he's going to be a starter, though. They might just try to make him just a piece in the bullpen. Who knows? Or he's a trading piece. I don't know. We'll find out. So that's the recap. Dodgers win all 4 games, almost in pretty much dominant fashion. But it's exciting because it's spring training. There's not much. It doesn't mean a lot because it's spring training, but at the same time, it gears you up for the potential that this team has. Which in 2020, it was like they could not lose a single game. And I know we're talking about spring training. That's a totally different thing, but the potential that this team has with these players, and then even the young guys, because some of these games earlier in spring, the young guys came in and really won those games. And that's good because the farm is there, they're developing players, and it's just an exciting time to be a Dodger fan. All right, let's talk about Will Smith really quick. So Will Smith is struggling in spring training, but that doesn't mean much. I mean, if you look at his stats, which we're not a stat podcast, even though I just talked about a bunch of stats and everything, and normally that's Max's department. But we did go over a little bit on, Will Smith, anybody in spring training, they can have a good spring training or a bad spring training. There's spring trainings where he batted 300. There's other spring trainings where he batted under 200. It doesn't matter. As long as you're ready to go in the season, you figure it out and you go. And Will Smith is definitely a capable hitter, so I'm not really worried about his spring. What I'm going to talk about, though, is, and I think it was Rick Monday who brought it up on one of the broadcasts, and he talked about Max Muncy and Will Smith. He said Max Muncy last season had the most runners in scoring position throughout the season, and then he said that the second batter with the most runners in scoring position throughout the season was Will Smith. And that's really good, but then also it's kind of alarming because I'm going to pull up Will Smith's stats really fast. And what's alarming about it is that if you had the second most runners in scoring position throughout the entire season, Now, I'm pretty sure he wasn't talking about just the Dodgers. I believe he said all of Major League Baseball, and I could have interpreted that wrong. It has happened before with what they said about Ohtani not hitting balls into left field, home runs into left field, which we retracted some of the stuff that we said about that. We should have stat checked it, and I don't have Max here to stat check this, but I'm just going to go off of it. And if what Rick Monday said is true, and he did have the second most runners in scoring position, you would expect a batter who's batting fourth majority of the time in your lineup, who has that many runners in scoring position, would have at least 100 RBIs, at least. Max Muncy had 100 RBIs. Will Smith only had 76 RBIs. Now, that's nothing to be, that's not terrible, but at the same time, that's a lot of wasted opportunities for somebody who's batting fourth. So I bring this up just because we talked about Will Smith fading throughout a lot of the seasons. And it's not just Will Smith. It's the catcher position. It's very taxing on players. It's a very demanding position. To stay healthy, to stay, to stay healthy throughout the entire season being a catcher is very extremely difficult. And so with having said that, the Dodgers love staggering their lineups, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty. Obviously, they're not going to do it this season with Ohtani and Freeman batting back-to-back, but it goes Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, and it's looking like Will Smith is the number 4 batter. They're not going to put Muncy there, even though Muncy can hit 100 RBIs because Muncy's another lefty. So if Will Smith isn't going to be your 100 RBI guy batting cleanup, which when I was a kid, your two best hitters were your the person who batted third and the person who batted fourth. Your fourth is your cleanup hitter. The guy who was like the dream was the bases were loaded for your number 4 to show up so he can hit a grand slam. That's probably not the case so much anymore. Normally your best hitters are batting 1 and 2. But you still want your RBI getter to be batting 4. And if it's not Smith, if it's not Will Smith, then who's it going to be? So my guess, you got to go to Teoscar Hernandez, right? It's because he's the other righty in the lineup that could be in that staggering position. Because if you look at the other options, Hayward, I'm talking about people that are projected to be mostly everyday starters. And so those players are, you got Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, Muncy, Hayward, Outman, Teoscar, and Lux. So majority of those are left-handed batters, right? So, I'm sorry, that are not Betts, Ohtani. That are not Betts. So Ohtani's left, Freeman's left, you got Smith right, Muncy left, Hayward left, Outman left, Teoscar Hernandez right, and then you got Lux left. So the option would be Teoscar Hernandez, right, to bat cleanup. So does Teoscar Hernandez, with the amount of opportunities that Teoscar Hernandez could possibly get batting fourth behind Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman, would he be the better option? I don't really know the answer to that. I just want to make sure, like, I'm just bringing it up there. I'm not saying like there needs to be a change. I'm just throwing that conversation. I'm just starting the conversation. And then, you guys can chime in, send me your thoughts on like how you think that it should be. If you're not worried about Smith, if you think Smith is going to be healthy throughout the entire season, just remember, he doesn't have that DH. He doesn't have a way to still be in the lineup and rest his legs. Ohtani is going to be that everyday DH for the majority of the season. And we're anticipating him to be healthy through the entire season. So that's not going to give Will Smith an opportunity to be in the lineup as often as you would think. They're going to rest him. So who knows? Hopefully they can figure it out. Hopefully he figures it out. Hopefully, I'm a huge Will Smith fan. I'm hoping that Will Smith can pull it together. He deserves to be a 100 RBI hitter. He deserves about in the high 200s, get 25 to 30 home runs, make it happen, Will Smith. Let's go ahead. Let's do it. All right. Before we start talking about Miguel Vargas, let me just remind everybody about our Patreon page. If you like the content, if you like what you're hearing, please check out our Patreon page. Your support helps us make new content. Go to patreon.com/RotYourBrainMedia. All right. So let's go into the next topic. And let me see here. All right, so Miguel Vargas. So we've talked about Miguel Vargas being a potential piece for the future of the Dodgers. We talked about how the majority of the outfield is one-year contracts with Teoscar Hernandez and with Jason Hayward. And now if you want to throw Kike Hernandez in the mix, another one-year contract. I'm not sure with Chris Taylor how many years he's got left. I think it might just be 1 or 2. I'm not really entirely sure. But with Miguel Vargas, he's had a rocky spring so far. Granted, small sample size still. But he did actually finally get some life in his bat. He went 3 for 3 in the game against the Brewers with that home run and that double and that RBI. And so we're talking about Miguel Vargas. It made me think about, how are you going to get him in the lineup right now to work on his stuff through this season? Because right now, the majority of your bench players, I mean, they're all right-handed bench players. I mean, they're the right-handed squad. I mean, you've got Kike, Chris Taylor, Rojas, and Barnes. Those are your 4 bench players right now. And they're going to, they'll be in there when Hayward, give him a break against left-handed pitching, possibly do the same thing with Outman. I mean, we're hoping Outman's going to be an everyday player, but there's really not going to be a place for Vargas to work on his stuff. So do you make him a trade piece? I mean, my hope is not, because my hope is that they want Miguel Vargas to be, if he turns out to be the player that they were hoping last season, if he turns out to be that hitter, that's something that the Dodgers can build off of next season. So we're talking about Miguel Vargas. Let's jump into where did he go? Andy Paez. So I don't know what else this guy had to do in order to make the team. I just want to bring out his stats for spring. So really fast, he played in 6 games. He had 15 at-bats. He had 6 hits. He had a double, a triple, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs. He walked twice. He struck out 5 times. His batting average was .400. So he's been with the organization for 4 years. He's never played a game in the major leagues, but we got to see the potential from this 23-year-old. So let's say that that his performance put him on the top of the list. So with Vargas and Paez, let's just say that they make a name for themselves in AAA. They continue to battle. They continue to produce, hit the crap out of the ball. That makes, and we're jumping ahead to next season, but that makes next season extremely exciting, because those 2 guys could potentially be battling for left and right field. And Vargas has been working on left field with Andre Ethier. Paez was playing a lot in right field. So, I mean, we could have possibly seen, but you pair those 2 up with Outman, that's a potential of future outfield for many, many, many years, which is extremely exciting. So, who's to say what's about to happen, but hopefully we're seeing the future. And I know we've talked about them being trade pieces, at least Vargas being a trade piece. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'd like to really see what he can do if he sticks with the organization. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be exciting. All right. So we talked about Paez. He got optioned, and then Knack got optioned as well. So we talked about Knack possibly being one of the 5th starters. Possibly being the number 5 starter, just because of his performance against the Padres. When he pitched 2 innings, he struck out 4. He looked phenomenal. He only got into 2 games. I looked at his stats. Let me bring it back really fast. He got into 2 games. He gave up a total. Where did this go really fast? Sorry about this. He got into 2 games. He pitched 4 innings total. He only gave up 1 hit. That 1 hit, it produced 2 runs, 2 earned runs. It wasn't a home run. I don't remember his next outing, but he only had 2 games. And so we were talking about him potentially being the 5th starter based off of 1 game. And he only got back in again one more at a time. And then the Dodgers decided, you know what? You need to go down and work on some stuff. And it makes sense, because the young guys, if you keep him up in spring, if you keep him up, if you try to make him a reliever, and he only gets to pitch every every 3 or 4 games in the major leagues, that's not gonna help him work to be a better pitcher. So keeping him down in the minors is a smart move. Hopefully it's not another trade piece because we really liked what we saw from him. Hopefully he stays with the organization, gets to build on some stuff, and then, maybe he comes back. We see some injuries in the bullpen. Hopefully not, because it's a really strong bullpen. But he comes in and pitches a couple of games in the major leagues and shows us what he can do later on. But those are the 2 notables that are notable players that got optioned, which is unfortunate because, going back to Paez, he had a killer spring so far. Unless he hit a home run every single at bat, there was really no place for him, I guess. But, it's a future Dodgers. We should be excited about it. All right. So last segment, we're going to talk about who's in and who's out. So right now we're seeing some people being optioned. We're getting an idea about based on performances on what our lineup, what our position players are going to look like and what our pitchers are going to look like. So really fast, let's go to position players. For our starters, we've got Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, Muncy, Hayward, Outman, Teoscar Hernandez, and Gavin Lux. On our bench, we've got Kike, we got Chris Taylor, Rojas, Barnes, but then we've got Vargas, who's battling for a spot, we believe. And then we've got Owings, who's doing it. He's performing pretty well. He's Aaron's guy. Hopefully, he can make some things happen. But I think those are the last 2 position players I think that are battling for a spot. I would be really shocked if either one of those guys actually make it onto the squad for opening day. It seems like it's a lock with them re-signing Kike. With Kike and Chris Taylor, just those 2 players right there, they could play any position. And then you got Rojas, who's Gold Glove shortstop, and then you got Barnes. You got Barnes, so that's good. Leadership, we like it, and that's it. And I really highly doubt that they're gonna keep Vargas or Owings, but who knows? I think they're the front runners to sneak onto the squad if possible. So pitchers wise, it's stacked. Potential starters. Let's go for the locked in starters. You got Glasnow, you got Paxton, Bobby Miller, and Yamamoto. Those are your 4 locks. And so then you've got your 3. Who are we talking about for the 5th starter? Are we talking about a 6-man rotation? We still don't know if that's going to happen yet or not. I think it should. We've talked about how this starting rotation is built for a 6-man rotation, but we'll see. But those 3 pitchers battling for it is Yarbrough, Emmett Sheehan, who hasn't had a chance to pitch yet because he's battling some kind of an injury or sickness. We're not really sure. But Roberts came out and said he doesn't expect Sheehan to miss any time, whether that means any time like with the squad or not, or like, is he going to be back next week? Is he going to be in spring next week pitching? Who knows? But Emmett Sheehan, then you got Gavin Stone. So I think with the way Gavin Stone's been performing, that puts him as the front runner right now, at least. Yarbrough's been doing a pretty darn good job. And then, it's unfair to Emmett Sheehan right now, but right now I think he's in 3rd place at the moment. And then it might just be, depending on what his injury is or his illness, he might not get the reps enough to become that 5th starter or 6th starter. So they might have to keep him down, stretch him out a little bit more before he can actually pitch with the team. But then let's look at the bullpen. You got Evan Phillips, Joe Kelly, Ryan Brazier, Daniel Hudson, Blake Trinan, Brusdar Graterol, Kyle Hurt, Michael Grove. I don't think he's going to be, I have him on here as being a relief pitcher, but I don't think he's going to be in the bullpen. I think they're going to probably move him back down to AAA so they could work on his location. His stuff is there. His location is just what's really hurting him. If he can figure that out, he'd be a really dominant pitcher. But keeping him in the bullpen and only letting him pitch, 1 inning every 3 or 4 days, I don't think that's going to be good for him. So I think they'll probably move him down to AAA, let him start so he can get multiple innings in and kind of figure out his stuff. Then you got Alex Vessier. So that alone right there, that bullpen, the ones that are a lock, that's brutal. That is brutal. Alex Vessier, not so much, but everybody else, I think it's brutal. It's a very, very, very good bullpen. Very good starting lineup just based on those 4 that I talked about. And you could pick any one of those other 3 to be your 5th or 6th, and that's still probably one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant starting rotation in baseball. And that is an exciting thing to say about your Dodger team. And it's an exciting time to be a Dodger. We've talked about it many times, many episodes. We've talked about how exciting it is to be a Dodger right now. I think that might do it. We're going to keep this episode pretty short, around 30 minutes. This is my first time flying solo. I'm pretty sure I probably rambled on some stuff. I might have even said some things that didn't even make any sense. Who knows? But I just wanted to touch on the Dodger spring training, touch on the last 4 games. We're trying to make as much content as possible. Our schedules are a little kind of like not lining up as much as we'd like, but we're doing the best that we can with Aaron doing the shorts. I think Max did 1 short up on YouTube. We're just trying to get as much content out there as possible. And just keep in mind, we are a fan podcast. All we want to do is talk about Dodgers, talk about, what's exciting, what we like, what we don't like, calls we like, calls we don't like, stuff like that. And we're just gearing up. We're building up towards the regular season. And this, for us right now, this is our spring training as well, because we are new at being a Dodger podcast. But, we have many experience. We have a long experience. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. Aaron and I have been Dodger fans our entire lives. We're over 40, and that means 40 years of being a Dodger fan. Max, he's a Yankee fan, but he loves baseball. He's a stat guy. But we love the Dodgers. We love the history of the Dodgers. We love everything that is Dodger blue. And so we love talking about it. And with your guys' support, with your guys' help, with you clicking the like button, clicking the thumbs up, click the follow, check out the Patreon page. Those types of things will help us make content and will help us grow. And then you guys can be along with us and help grow along with us. I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much. Check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/rotyourbrainmedia. We're going to try to get a couple more episodes in next week. Also, I'm sure we'll do a couple more shorts and everything like that. Send us some comments. Let us know what you think. Tell us what we got wrong. I'm sure I got some stuff wrong in this episode. I feel like I rambled a lot because there's no one to bounce off of. There's no one to talk to. But doing the best I can. So thank you guys so much. And we will catch you next time.